we conducted the second edition, that is Remedium 3 in Dubai again. So IHMA is doing a marvelous job internationally also, organizing the homeopathy doctors. I think we have more than 70 plus life members in Dubai chapter, in UAE chapter. Dr. Subair, National International Affairs, is leading the chapter, and our president, Dr. Srilekha, and Secretary Dr. Shali, and all other executive members are actively participating and contributing to the welfare of the community and for the development of our professional colleagues and IHMA too. So now we can move to the topic. So from Syngona to COVID, we feel it's like an open discussion among homeopaths and is organized by IHMA. So I just put a disclaimer here. It's nothing to offend anybody or anything like that. This disclaimer is simply crystal clear. We don't want any kind of blind from medicine, and we want to keep away from useless critics. You can see, you know what is happening in Kerala, but such thing will not help in any way to progress the system of medicine. I always stress the point that homeopaths of Kerala, they are the best homeopaths in the world, because I have hands-on experience in different parts of the world, meeting doctors, even practiced in different parts of the world. So I can proudly say homeopaths of Kerala has to lead the role. So that is why I thought of having an open discussion on this topic. So kindly excuse me, these blind believers or useless critics, because both of these will not help for the further growth of the system. So I thought of renaming the journey as a journey from Syngona to Arsenicum album. So in an estimate, it says that more than 6 million, around 60 lakhs of arsenic album tubes are distributed worldwide. So we can say it's, if we take at least 10% of this count, like that means in that at least 10% will not be even heard of homeopathy before for sure. They didn't use any kind of homeopathy, at least 6 lakhs of people. So this COVID-19 pandemic created an opportunity for homeopathy to pitch into the international scenario. So this is the important point of discussing this topic. So at least we could target an international community who are exposed to homeopathy through the string of Arsenicum album. So homeopathy is a well-balanced system of medicine. And you know, Hanuman didn't read Cullen's Mathematica to find out homeopathy. It was a serendipity. It's like an accidentally he find the principles. That he didn't do any kind of research to find out homeopathy by reading this book. Then he did research and experiments on it based on methods ahead of his time, and which is the pure and real scientific principles. Even though the other school of medicine says homeopathy is a pseudoscience, but when we analyze the way how Hanuman found the stones of homeopathy, he simply followed the real footsteps of pure and real science. Then he tried to explain his observations based on his experience. His experiences are the real one, but his observations also real one. But there are certain lacunas in his explanations. The followers of Hanuman has to find correction to link the gap with the modern science and homeopathy. So just to understand the our what you call homeopathic times, I just coined this one, like homeopathy during Hanuman's era, then post Hanumanian period. Then since COVID is a major what you call milestone in homeopathic history, we can say era. So when we see the hierarchy of homeopaths, we have masters in homeopathy, we have veterans in homeopathy, we have seniors in homeopathy, and we have juniors and beginners in homeopathy community. So when we analyze the category of homeopaths, we have institutionally qualified homeopaths. I know homeopaths from Kerala only knows about this institutionally qualified homeopaths, but when we are sitting at international level, we know there are converted homeopaths from Western medicine who is very keenly interested in practicing homeopathic medicine, especially naturopaths. There are certain doctors from even Australia also, those are some kind of gastroenterologists specialists in homeopathy, or even in Europe, in USA, in Canada also we can see such doctors there. Then homeopaths with Western medicine qualifications. That also we can see in Kerala. Many doctors, homeopaths, later they will go for what you call MBBS in the so-called modern medicine or allopathic medicine. Then this is another category. Fourth category is also another important category, such like patients who are cured by homeopathy, later they become homeopaths. These kind of so-called patient homeopaths are everywhere in the world. They may not be qualified even in basic science, but when they get cured for, say, for example, psoriasis, then they will go to some what you call homeopaths or some institute. They will learn homeopathy and they will start practicing homeopathy without any base of basic medical science. They are making more harm to homeopathy than bringing glory to homeopathy. So these kind of practitioners are not in India, but they are, plenty of them are practicing in the Western world. So they are like a kind of fanatics in homeopathy. They simply follow some schools of homeopathy and then damaging and ruining the image of homeopathy as a science. Then these kind of naturopaths are available in USA. They are mainly, the naturopaths in USA are using homeopathic medicines. They claim that they are naturopaths, but they are using homeopathy medicines. Then comes to the types of approaches. We know homeopaths are like it's like India, diversity in unity as homeopath. But there are doctors who are in favor of low potency tinctures. There are doctors who prescribe only higher potency medicines. There are some doctors who are in the safer side using medium potency. Then there are polypharmacy, like you can see a prescription of a cardiologist similar to that of homeopathy. Since being in Dubai, I am exposed to different kinds of prescriptions coming from different parts of India. So even we can see polypharmacy prescriptions like one tincture, one higher potency, one tissue medicine, and then some drainage medicine, then organ medicine. I have seen even 15 prescription in a one prescription, 15 types of medicines and all. So for such prescription, I simply say them, instead of send the patient to some other doctors, let them take at least half of this medicine. Then another group is like followers a particular school of medicine. They believe that is the true way to practice homeopathy. Then there are other who claim as classical homeopathy, especially in Europe. You can see they themselves call as classical homeopathy. I don't know what is classical they mean. Then there are doctors who are simply following LM potency, because they say 6th edition of Organon clearly says about LM potency. So these different types of approaches, they are also getting results, and they claim my school of, or my way of practicing is the best, or that is true homeopathy. I'm not against anybody, but we have to see the efficacy and the patient safety and the economy of the treatment. Because when we look in the system of medicine in a broad sense, how it's helping the patient to recover fast with less cost. And we all know from all prescription, relief comes from, even without prescription, we know that the belief system works well. In some placebo effect will be there. Then there are some psychologists coming up with the concept of law of attraction. Then chemoregulation using some chemical medicines also, we can see a relief the patient's getting. So the relief can be from even without medications, even simply following the belief system or the placebo effect or the law of attraction or even chemoregulation. But real cure in a chronic disease is homeopathic, and that is by the antipsoric treatment. This is the beauty of homeopathy. So this is to be understood clearly when we claim ourselves as a homeopath. So in pre-COVID era, I don't want to explain anything about Hahnemannian era, post-Hahnemannian, because we all learned the history of homeopathy. We have learned about the pioneers and the Keynesian philosophy, and all we are aware of that. I don't want to go to that. But in the pre-COVID era, just to briefly mention about few points, like as you know, like the formation of Ayush system in India, it's a milestone in Ayush medicine. But I am a little bit skeptical about Ayush system of medicine, the importance of homeopathy, which we are getting through the system. But of course, now during this COVID period, we are also finding our way to come up. Then European homeopaths, but lately they are in a dilemma, like whether homeopathy have to propagate as a material science or it's an energy medicine, because there are legal restrictions, so they cannot claim it as a material medicine. So they want to use it as a kind of Reiki treatment, or it's like energy medicine where you cannot find any particles. So we know in IIT Mumbai we have shown even a higher potency contains the medical particles. But when it comes to Europe and Africa, American continent, there then it will be difficult for them to propagate it like that. So they can by using the word energy medicine. There are, you can find plenty of practitioners. There are many places where the homeopathy is not regulated. So any Dick and Harry can practice as a practitioner, and they claim homeopathy as an energy medicine. Then in the year 2007, in Canada, they passed the homeopathic law, and it came to establish in the year 2014. That means after 2014, any homeopaths want to practice in Canada has to undergo a regular exam, like what is happening in Dubai. Then only they can use the term homeopath. And for your knowledge, I want to share you one more thing. In Dubai, actually, we can use the prefix as doctors. But in other parts of the world, homeopaths can use only homeopath, because the conventional system of medicine or the PhD holders can only use the prefix as doctors. In Dubai Healthcare City, DHCC, there you can use the doctor, but it's a CAM doctor, that is complementary alternative medicine doctor. Then homeopathy without borders, they are doing a very good charity work. They are even helping people affected by earthquake in Haiti, and even they are also doing good jobs in western part of the world. Even they are having they are teaching homeopathy in Africa and other places also. Then we are all aware of Vitellakos Institute of Medicine homeopathy. Then Switzerland recognizes homeopathy, and we have practitioners doing good job in Switzerland. And in France also, homeopathy is like very common there. Then when it comes to Middle East, especially Oman and UAE are the forerunners of homeopathy in this Middle East countries. First Oman started regulating homeopathy, followed by UAE. Even in Dubai, IHMA is having more than 90 life members here. We are having more than 150 plus what you call DHA or Ministry of Health regulated homeopaths in UAE. Then homeopathy is flourishing in Africa and Asia, as you know, like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. It is coming up. Even in Africa, in Tanzania, even in Gambia also. Actually, IHMA planned a project with the Gambian Ministry of Health, but unfortunately, we are not able to materialize it. That time, I was in charge of National Secretary for International Affairs. We even contacted them, but some kind of political issues happened in that place, and we were not able to move further with that. So this was the things happening pre-COVID era of homeopathy, but unfortunately, too many their fancy theories common nature of human body and creating a false belief among homeopaths. That means deviating from the teachings of Hahnemann. They are making their own homeopathy in a vitiated manner, but their prescriptions are all based on Hahnemannian concept. So this is a damage happening in the pre-COVID era in homeopathy. So when it comes to COVID-19 era, so this I just put a slide just to explain like how this SARS-CoV to get attached to the ACE2 receptor. We know which is having a spike glycoprotein there. So with the help of furin, this what you call this glycoprotein split into two halves, make it easy to get attached with the ACE2 receptor. And this ACE2 receptor is present in the lung, intestine, and the endothelial cells of the blood vessels. And the culprit is a furin. Furin is the pro-protein convertase. Stabilizin caxin type 3 is a pro-proteases. That means it is like it is causing a proteolytic reaction, splitting the spike protein into two halves and making it more easy to get attached. So why I mention it here, this is the role played by our own body. In the sense, the body is producing furin. It's a pro-protein, and this is very important for the cleavage of the enzymes and other things. So for example, pro-insulin. Insulin produces pro-insulin. By the action of furin, it is converted into insulin, and so insulin is being produced like that. Even all hormones are like the pro-hormones. By the action of furin, get into the divided into hormone and the other apoprotein. So, but in this case also, this certain viruses and bacteria uses this furin to get into the body system. So that means our own body system is allowing the virus or bacteria to get into the body. So here also we as a homeopath, we have to focus on this concept also. This proprotein convertase stabilizing hexin. This is like there are 7 classes of it, and the most important one is furin, that is PCSK3. And in SARS-CoV-2, this plays an important role. And we know like the clinical features of COVID-19, we have a viral response in the initial stage, that is stage 1, and stage 2 or the pulmonary phase, which is again divided into 2A and 2B based on the hypoxia. I don't want to go detail about this COVID because we are discussing it for the last so many days and weeks. But what I want to point out is clearly in the stage 2, what happens, you can see host inflammatory responses begins, or we call it as a cytokine storm. So this is not the mistake of the virus. This is the part played by our own immune system. So it leads to hyperinflammatory stage, and it is there available in my YouTube channel, Dr. Simpson Joseph. You can log into that. You can I think I have made 3 videos on this one, clearly explaining what is the scope of homeopathy in COVID-19 treatment actually. So the viral responses normally comes down the second phase. The host inflammatory reaction starts coming up. So if it is go beyond that, this will go to a hyperinflammatory stage where the patients move into acute respiratory disease syndrome or severe inflammatory response syndrome or shock or cardiac failure. So this is the way how the death or mortality happens in SARS-CoV-2. So there is a major role where homeopathy can play even in these kind of viral infections. So as I mentioned, cytokine storm, this is explaining in picture like how it is happening. To make it easy to understand, I made another slide simply. Like what happens is like the cytokines get attached to the cell receptors, but since being a big molecule, cannot pass into the cells, but they can do a phosphorylation where this JAK kinase protein, JAK kinase is Janus kinase, it's a kind of tyrosine kinase non-receptor protein. So this will phosphorylate and they will stimulate the STAT protein, that is signal transducer and activation of transcription, STAT protein. So they will reach to the nucleus, they will enhance or they will give the information to the transcription, and then from the transcription or the proteins are being produced as the interleukins are being produced. So this is the way how this cytokine storms occurs. Like so for example, roughly, if one cytokine get attached to the cell surface or the cell receptor, it can augment and produce say 100 times interleukins. So these interleukins can lead to cytokine storms and lead to the complication and death of the patient. So this JAK-STAT protein plays an important role in this one. This view I will explain when we describe about how to learn mathematics also. So this is the way how the cytokine storms happening in COVID-19 patients also. So these are all some roles played by our own immune system. So when it comes to the post-COVID era, here also I just want to warn, new homeopathic masters will mushroom in, claim that I have done this one and I have this is the way how to treat COVID patients, or this is the way how to prescribe their own combinations, other things happening. But the problem with us is like we don't have a multi-centric system or we don't have a regulatory system where fortunately this year at least Ayush Ministry came into play and they are regulating it, but still we can see others are coming up with their own ideas. The problem with us is like we don't have the scientific committee to evaluate these things. So beware of such new homeopathic masters who are mushrooming in with claiming that I treated this case, I treated this case. So that again leads to a kind of defame to our system of medicine. Because Arsenicum album is the new apple of homeopathy, because as I told you, like many of them are not aware of Cinchona, they don't know who's Hanuman, but they all used Arsenicum album for the prevention or as a homeopathic immune booster or a immune regulator or immune modifier, for since the fear was all over the world. So when it comes to the post-COVID era, we can think out what we can do. We need multi-centric research studies. So for example, our Dr. Pradeep Kumar of Nainimath came out with the idea of treating COVID patients, and he shared his experience. Like that, if we have different research centers doing the same thing, then we can come to a conclusion. Okay, this is at least peer group verified. So we need such kind of setup in future. Then reproving our medicines based on the cellular mechanism. See, we are collecting the subjective symptoms of the patient and we are giving more importance to them. But when it comes to the scrutiny of science, we have to explain the science or the cellular mechanism behind that. So we have to, so there is no need of finding new medicines. We have an array of medicines which are helpful for the antipsoric treatment. But the thing is, we need to explain the symptoms based on the cellular mechanism. So reproving of the medicines based on the cellular mechanism. For example, we all are familiar with the Naxomica for the what you call in case of oligospermia or oligoasthenospermia, but we never explain the mechanism. So suppose if we are able to explain the mechanism how Naxomica is acting on in patients, then see that doesn't mean it is deviating from the principles of homeopathy. We are considering the symptoms of the patient and explaining the cellular mechanism. So it will be similar in two ways. Symptomatically it will be similar, and we are able to explain the cellular mechanism happening with such things. Then we have to propagate antipsoric treatment in a big way. Then new addition of organ, new addition in the sense we have to, as I told, observations and his experiences are clear, but the explanations many a times, because the science was not mature enough to explaining everything during his time. So this also require a kind of what you call rebooting or relearning, or what you call an analysis of our organon, Hahnemann's writings, the fundamental books of homeopathy, rather than wasting our time reading and criticizing the so-called followers of Hahnemann. Your studies based on the teachings of Hahnemann, because everything is given by him. He experience. He took 12 years to proclaim his antipsoric treatment. So he is having all the records with him. So better to read Organ of Medicine than the Chronic Disease and his lesser writings. If you are able to understand these three things, you will not be misguided by the concepts of miasm or the how to follow the patient, whether we have to give only single medicine or how to treat the patient in a chronic stage, what are the limitations of homeopathy, what is the scope of homeopathy, and you will not be deviating from the principles of homeopathy. So we need, this is the need of the hour. We need to, because the Organ of Medicine Hahnemann wrote not only for the homeopaths but for the whole scientific community. So we have to propagate, or we have to make others also understand the real concept of homeopathy to propagate antipsoric treatment. Then miasm simplex. I use the term simplex purposely because now miasm is a complex one. We are all confused with what you call, we don't know anything about Hahnemann's miasm. We know about the new generation miasm, like all comes up with their own ideas. Then psychotic shame, or what is syphilitic damage, or new books on that. Then Ortega miasm book. There are plenty of books, but go to the source book of Hahnemann, understand that, discuss about that. Then the miasm will become so simple, and you can easily understand the concept of homeopathy and focus more on the treatment of chronic diseases based on the antipsoric medicines. Then clinicians' data collection. Now, as we all know, data is the costliest one in the world. Now it's like this is costlier than oil nowadays. So we are the best practitioners in the world, homeopaths in Kerala, both private doctors and government doctors. And on average, at least 60 to 70 patients are coming to your clinic. At least you can make a data of that. Do a social auditing or a medical auditing by yourself. What type of cases are coming to your clinic? What, say for example, hypertension. At least 10 to 15 cases in a week, or in a day also you are getting. Make a data of that one. Pool this data. Make a group of your own doctors and then do some studies, rather than what you call base for somebody else to come and do the study on that. So even as a clinicians, you can also contribute to the research work. This is like a teamwork. We cannot say, okay, CCRH will come and do the research. But if you are able to collect the data, we can also do that. And that is why we select this topic. Now it's like we are all like most of us are like seniors, whatever, juniors and beginners. Beginners can follow the real path of homeopathy. Juniors need some more time to cope up with that. We seniors can switch over to this one and propagate homeopathy in more scientific way. For that, we testimonials will not replace data. So see, we have such a very good system of what you call dispensaries in Kerala. The value of data, the data comes from the government sector will be more valuable. We can do multi-centric studies. Select, for example, one clinic from one dispensary from Kannur district, one from Trivandrum district, one from Ernakulam district, one from Kasaragod district, do a study on hypertension. So these kind of data will help us to place homeopathy into the scientific community. Why I'm specifying this one? See, as I told you, like our arsenic alb fall on the head of scientists in the world. So we have to follow that with the true data. So this is the need of the hour again. So we have to focus, use our own knowledge, our own data, pool it and do studies on that. Then strengthen the specialization intra-referral system. I don't know how far we are referring one patient into our colleagues also, because we are all from the juniors to the veterans or the mass common call to the answer. And since we have the liberty of psoric treatment or anti-psoric or anti-miasmatic treatment, we can treat acute cases to the chronic cases. But to develop as a system, we need some kind of specialization or hierarchy. That doesn't mean to deviate from the fundamentals or the principles of homeopathy, rather than making it more precise. Say, for example, if a doctor is treating diabetic patients for the last 20 years, he can contribute much to the repertory and much to the Medica. Like that, we need to develop intra-referral system among ourselves. They can learn more, they can specialize more, then their referral or their studies will be more valuable than a graduate doing a study on this one. Then, as we know, nowadays the demand is for family physician. Even in Middle East also, we are seeing now the demand is more for the family physician or general practitioner rather than gynecologist or pediatrician or dermatologist, because the economy is changing. The health of the economy is so weak, patients prefer family physicians. Being a family physician, our homeopathic practice will also be useful, because we can we can do the pedigree analysis and we can predict the chances of getting disease in the family. And then we need to refer the patients, we can refer to them to our own colleagues or to the other system of medicine. So a foundation, our dispensary also working as a family physician setup, but we need to train or we need to focus more on that, because you see, this is not a rocket science or anything. You know, the British system is always, they know how to make systems. In homeopathy, we are lacking such kind of systems. We are doing the same thing, but not in the systematic, proper scientific way. So we have to think about that loudly in coming days in this post-COVID era. Then definitely we can translate homeopathic concept to the scientific findings. So for example, Hahnemann says about susceptibility, diathesis, predisposition, SORA. See, the modern science use the word genome or gene ontology. Gene ontology means the molecular structure of the gene, its properties, and the whether the gene is present. So this also we can easily link with our knowledge. And HSA microRNA, this is like HSA means Homo sapiens. Like this microRNA, the 3 digits is representing the species. HSA means Homo sapiens. This HSA MIR27B is seen in Indians. There was a study published end of April, I guess, end of April or end of May. That means Indians are immune to SARS-CoV-2 to extent because of the presence of this HSA microRNA 27B. So we can also link this one, the susceptibility or the diathesis, with this kind of studies. So for that, we need to understand the modern science concept, link our Hahnemannian concept with that. Then microRNA, then furin. I explained about furin. It is like a pro-protein convertase enzyme. It's like a pro-protease enzyme. It plays an important role in the cleavage of the what you call the enzymes or the hormones. Also, it helps the bacteria and virus to get into the body or to the cell actually. Then TRP channels, that is called transient receptor potential channels. There are different types: TRPA, TRPM, TRPV, and TRPV, that is the vanillin type of channels, plays an important role in skin diseases. And we can roughly say TRPV channels are a kind of psoric thing. I am doing more studies on that. Once it is done, definitely I want to publish a book on that, scientific validation of SORA. Then come to this immunology and other thing. We know CD4 plus cells, CD8 plus helper T cells and other thing. So we have to understand the modern science linked with the Hahnemannian concept. Then we can make homeopathy much more scientific and acceptable by the world and scientific community. And the WHO already started or the scientific community attraction being given to Prakriti concept of Ayurveda. You know that why they are just like how we are saying it's like a susceptible to diathesis and other thing. They have a term called Prakriti. And even if my knowledge is correct, WHO is helping for the, they are funding them to study about the Prakriti, the concept of Ayurveda. So for like that, homeopathy also has to come up to learn to scientifically substantiate our concept of medicine. So there are people, they are ready to what you call help us, but we have to reach them. We have to make them understand how homeopathy is doing our job. Then aside to, we have to focus more on GWAS. GWAS is like a genome-wide association studies, then genetics, then the receptor mechanism, and the epigenetics. Epigenetics, the effect of genetics. See that genes cannot be changed, but the protein what you call protein production or the protein production by a cell can be changed. Epigenetics plays an important role in homeopathic medicines. So these are also new areas where our new junior doctors and research and scientists has to focus more on that. Then nanoparticles, as we know, we already began the study based on nanoparticles. But what I want to tell you clearly is let the scientists do studies on these kind of things, or we have to understand clearly. Otherwise, it's like it will become a mockery only. So we have to understand the real stuff of this thing. So genome-wide association studies, genetics, receptors, epigenetics, even hormesis, nanoparticles, these are the area where we have to focus. And the old symptom or disease reappearance by an anti-psoriatic treatment is another area where homeopathy only can prove this. And I discussed this with many, even with cardiologists, even gynecologists. They wonder, even if we explain, then they are astonished by this one. So this is a beautiful area. We have my request to our fellow homeopaths in Kerala: you do one day, you just collect the records of your anti-psoriatic treatment helps to get the older symptoms coming back, and by the same medicine the reappearance occurs. So this will be a wonderful study where we can verify, we can make double sure that anti-psoriatic treatment is the future of medicine. So these are the area where we can focus our future generations. The aim of this topic is for the new generation homeopaths to come up with more confidence rather than simply focusing or following the footsteps of the seniors. We have to link with the science. So a bridge between Hahnemann's observation and new scientific findings is the need of our own homeopathy. We don't need any new teachings in homeopathy, because Hahnemann, he did the wonderful job. He finished everything. He didn't leave anything for us to find in homeopathy. Only the scientific validation and corrections of Hahnemann's observation and findings, not the observation and findings, on the explanations only. So we have to find a link between Hahnemann's observation and scientific findings. As I explained in brief, like the genetics is an important topic for homeopaths. The receptor mechanism is another thing. See, in Western medicine, they are giving importance to the action agonist, antagonist, and the receptor inhibitor something. Our medicine are acting in one or the other similar way. There is no what you call energy. It's acting by the cells. Even we have to what you call update our knowledge on mind and mental symptoms. Now the psychiatrists focus the neuronal transmitters as the mind. not like a brain is the mind, cell itself is the mind. So we have to understand what is happening in the science, incorporate that into homeopathy. Nowadays it's easy. Now it's like a click away only. So we have to rewrite our books, but not in a like a story or something like that. But it should be justifying the findings or the fundamental principles of homeopathy, linking the with the new scientific findings and completing the lacuna which we are facing nowadays. So we note only the scientific validation and corrections of Hahnemann's findings and observations and his explanations. No need of any new teachings in homeopathy. Why? Because apple is already fell on our head. No need for only thing, explain the similia, SORA concept, anti-SORA treatment. So, as you know, the WHO is promoting future medicine as predictive, personalized, preventive, participatory medicine. This is the future medicine. There it will incorporate artificial intelligence, blockchain technology, 3D printing, and things like that. So, so this 4 P's: predictive, personalized, preventive, and participatory. Why can homeopathy play an important role in this one? Because see, the current conventional medical system, which is antibiotic, anti-inflammatory, anxiolytic, disease modifying therapy, anti-diabetic, anti-hypertensive, lipid lowering drugs, antivirals, this is polluting the environment and polluting the human body. We all know, if we do a medical audit on the patients who died of COVID-19, we can easily find that the amount of medicine they consumed led them to complications, and even cytokine storms happened in such kind of patients. But the problem, as you know, the drug cartels or the pharma is so big enough to influence any political, and you know, like how Donald Trump, the American president, snatched HCQ from India. So this is another word, but we can also raise our voice. See, even in America also, after the death of George Floyd, that that African American, they are fighting there. Like that, even homeopaths also can come up instead of going to, see, the science knows only this one: antibiotic, anti-inflammatory, anxiolytic, DMRD, anti-diabetic, anti-hypertensive, lipid lowering, antiviral. Why can't we introduce anti-psoriatic treatment to them? Because here the personal medicine. So the new definition of future medicine is predictive, personalized, preventive, participative. Predictive in the sense, not the predictive school or anything like that. See, if you understand the present symptoms of the patient, we know what will going to happen in the patient if they didn't go for a proper treatment. So we can predict, or based on the analysis of family history. Say, for example, even we say those who are diabetic, the children born in the family can develop polycystic ovary. So this is, we can easily explain based on our own principles, because if you overlook, we cannot say how the diabetes is connected to polycystic ovary. But we follow the principles of homeopathy, it is easy for us to explain that. Then this become personalized medicine. That is why what we are doing is like a personal prescription. Then it is preventive. That is, we have seen in COVID-19 also. I know too much of our homeopaths around the world are treating COVID patients in the beginning stage, like stage 1 and stage 2. We prevent them becoming or progressing into the hyperinflammatory stage or stage 3 of the disease. And participate remains, as we know, homeopaths, the patients are participating with us. We need to collect the symptoms from this. Is like a medicine is not like giving some kind of pills, but cooperating with the doctor, designing a specific mode of treatment for them. And we know, like in psoriatic treatment also, we take the case in detail, like their mode of living, their habit, their lifestyle, their emotional factors, everything, because this can modify the disease. So for like that, to prevent the recurrence of psoriatic disease or anything, we need the participation of the patient too. So the WHO is promoting future medicine. So there, homeopathy can an important role, and we are personalized medicine rather than polypharmacy. So there has to a drift or shift happens from pharma-centric to the patient-centric. This is clear. This is a pharma-centric mode of treatment, but this is patient-centric. So this is going to happen in post-COVID era, and we are the apostle, or we are the torch bearers for the promotion of patient-centric treatment, that is homeopathy. But beware, it should not drift from homeocentric to mesenteric. Mesenteric means stomach, for the sake of making money, but should be homeocentric, following the principles of homeopathy, rather than promoting or creating my own schools of homeopathy, because Hahnemann explained everything and it's not patented. Anybody can use that. So it should not concept. It should be a personalized, person-centric, and it should be homeocentric too. So now we have to focus on the chronic diseases, because the World Health Organization says 6 out of 10 deaths worldwide are due to chronic diseases. 4 out of 5 chronic disease deaths are in low IC, that is low and middle income countries like India, all except Europe and American countries, they consider low and middle income countries. So 4 out of 5 chronic disease deaths are due to this kind of countries where they cannot spend huge amount of money for the well-being of their patients or the persons or citizens. So their homeopathy is more economical. So we can promote that also. Then half of all chronic disease deaths are premature, which is most important. They consider people aged under 70 years and we can see even at the age of 28, especially in Middle East, especially in Dubai, we are seeing young people dying at the age of 20, 25, 28 like that. And 1/4 of people are the under the age of age. We can say 1/4 is less than the age of 30. Then half of all cases of chronic disease are in women. So homeopathy is women centric, and we have to focus on 50% of chronic disease are from women. So there is a good scope of homeopaths, especially we are seeing nowadays in all colleges, it's like a women's homeopathy colleges. So more scope for women homeopaths. So homeopathy is now women centric also. The WHO is promoting this one. So this is the core areas where homeopathy can lead the role. See, they are saying again, the more and more people are dying too early and suffering too long from chronic disease. It's mainly because of the mode of conventional treatment like anxiolytic, antidiabetic, DMRD drugs, like that. They don't know anything about the antipsoric treatment. So we have to, it is our responsibility to promote our homeopathic treatment. So this is by the WHO. Hahnemann said 7/8 of chronic disease, 7/8 means say 87.5, roughly 90% of the chronic diseases are due to psora. So we have to focus on the psoric treatment. And we know like nowadays the psora is like a latent psora. When it comes to this part of chronic diseases, we are get confused. Antipsychotic, antisyphilitic, the good antimiasmic treatment are there for venereal diseases. They have penicillin, they have other medicines to treat what you call gonorrhea or syphilis. It's very rare. Frankly speaking, I have seen only 4 cases in my entire 20 years of professional career, that too from Dubai only, gonorrhea cases. And how there will be suppression, if they can kill the bacteria and cure them completely, then how the amount of psychotic and syphilitic disease will be there in the community. Hahnemann himself shown that 90% of the cases are due to psora. So we have to promote anti-psoric treatment. So there is no confusion, because you can see when we move to the next slide, see what we are thinking as psychotic or syphilitic cases are clearly mentioned as latent psora symptoms. Everything is like the problem is that the deviation of miasmatic teaching from Hahnemann to the so-called followers and the so-called masters, they deviated, they distorted the concept of miasma into such a way that we are. So I don't want to go in detail about this one. 90% of diseases are due to psoric disease. So anti-psoric treatment is the bread and butter for homeopathy. See, amenorrhea, dysmenorrhea, uterine hemorrhage, hematemesis, constipation, everything comes under almost all this. That's why 90% of diseases under anti-psoric only. But bodily constitution and other factors determines or modifies the secondary symptoms of rheumatic diseases. See, this is a very important thing. And being in Dubai for the last many years, see, the lifestyle here itself is a factor for modifying the secondary symptoms of miasmatic diseases. You can see cellulitis, that is Huntington's disease. I have seen Huntington's disease here. Even epilepsy is more, cardiac problems are more. See, this is like the lifestyle and the stress. That is a WHO coined also giving importance to healthy eating habit, quit smoking, and physical activity. You can imagine how the people are doing physical activity in a desert. That is why you can every week one or other person is dying of heart diseases at an younger age. So this is like a latent SORA, and it is getting modified with the what you call the lifestyle and too much of medications which are in the what you call it make the person more worse than getting cured. So this is very important as far as homeopathy is concerned. So again, I am just mentioning you like so to focus more on the latent SORA, and soric treatment or anti-soric treatment is the most important one. I think can you see my screen?
Not now, sir. Not now.
Now it's okay.
No, not yet.
Now it's clear.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Then, so similia, that is, we say a substance which can produce symptoms in a healthy person can cure such symptoms if present in a sick individual. That we say the fundamentals of homeopathy. So I just want to make little modification to that definition. A substance which can produce symptoms per se via altering the cellular mechanism. So see, if a patient, there should be some underlying cellular mechanical changes happening. But at the time of Hahnemann, it was impossible to understand the cellular mechanism. Now we have the weapons, we have the tools, we have even ATM, atomic tunnel microscope, we have all the facilities to understand the cellular mechanisms, even receptor studies. We have RBD, receptor binding domain. That what you call the epigenetics is also so much improved. So I just want to what you call make similar more appealing. So any substance which can produce symptom positive by altering the cellular mechanism, that means if a symptom is there, there is a change in the cellular mechanism. Will be capable of removing such symptoms per se in a sick individual. So the other important thing is, so just in case if there is positive symptoms, but rather changes in cellular channels or pathways, this can be compared with the similar changes in specific patients in a similar way. That means sometimes we cannot see symptoms in the patient, but there will be cellular changes. Say for example, Nux vomica. If we didn't get the classical symptoms of Nux vomica, but if we can understand the cellular changes in Nux vomica, then even if the symptoms are not present, we can prescribe Nux vomica. Then the anti-soric treatment will become more clear and specific. Because in latent SORA, the symptoms are getting modified by the nature of lifestyle, habit, due to many reasons. Even the symptoms will not be present much. For example, a person living in a desert climate like Dubai, they are not exposed to the what you call the real sunny sun exposure is not there much. So they will be an artificial what you call temperature controlled place only. So you cannot see any kind of sweating in that person, or there won't be any thirst in them. So the symptoms will get modified, but the SORA will, or the latent SORA will be there, but it will cause what you call changes in the cellular level, cellular channels or pathways. But since we believe only in symptomatic treatment, or we focus more on the symptoms, we won't get much symptoms. And Hahnemann that time itself, he explained like two-sided diseases. Now we are seeing most of the one-sided diseases, but for that, symptoms alone will not help much. I think again the screen sharing is changed. Now it's clear.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so to make similia more appealing, we can define it like that: a substance which can produce symptoms per se, there should be an alteration in the cellular mechanism. So when we study Metia we should focus more on the changes happening in the cellular levels to understand in depth about the action of Chalybachromicum or any other medicine like that. Then it will become more appealing and we can solve many issues of limitation of symptoms in a patient. So we can just see an example. See, Calibic, it's a very common medicine we are using. We know it causes ulceration, what do you call it? Membrane formation, fibrotic changes, bleeding, mucosal discharges. And it's a very good medicine for inflammatory bowel disorders because it causes ulcers, bleeding, you know, like a yellow discharge, everything. So in conventional medicine, they have found that in inflammatory bowel disease, either in ulcerative colitis or in Crohn's disease, there is an action on the JAK-STAT pathway, which we have seen in the previous slide when I explained about the cytokine storm. That means when the cytokine get attached to the cell, this JAK kinase protein is phosphorylated. It will stimulate the STAT proteins. Then it goes to the nucleus and it will produce, it leads to transcription and produce more amount of interleukins and cytokines. In inflammatory bowel disorders, the same thing is happening. There is an overflow of inflammatory or interleukins to the intestine and causes ulcers and bleeding. So they designed medicines which can block this pathway. Actually, JAK-STAT pathway is important for the growth, development, and immune regulation. But when it is become excessive or when it is altered, this is happening, leading to inflammation. And just showing it again the same way, like you can see JAK kinase inhibitors are now they found they are prescribing two medicines, tofacitinib and filgotinib, which can block JAK-STAT pathway, and patients are improved in ulcerative colitis. Chalybachromicum, I don't know how far you people are experienced with the Chalybachromicum in ulcerative colitis. I have seen very good results with Chalybachromicum. So what I feel, Chalybachromicum also act like a JAK kinase inhibitor in a patient, but its role is more than that also. So we have to, in proving, when we do the drug proving, we have to collect the symptoms. Along with that, we have to see the cellular changes happening with our the issue of potency and the issue of repetition of medicine that can be solved to a certain extent. And also our Chalybachromicum is not only for the ulcerative colitis. We have seen, I presented a slide, what you call a Zoom webinar on this, what you call the nausea and vomiting of pregnancy and hyperemesis gravidarum. And new studies shows there are two genetic factors associated with this nausea, vomiting of excessive nausea and vomiting of pregnancy and hyperemesis gravidarum. That means those who are getting hyperemesis gravidarum during pregnancy, they are genetically exposed to that. What you call there are two variations in two genes like GDF15 and IGFB7. IGFBP7 are strongly associated with the development of this nausea, vomiting of pregnancy, and hyperemesis gravidarum. This GDF15 is a growth and differentiation factor 15, and is insulin growth factor binding protein 7. These are expressed more in a pregnant woman, but that itself is leading to hyperemesis gravidarum. And you can read in Metia Medica, Chalybachromicum, Herring gives a case of the vomiting of pregnancy cured by Chalybachromicum. That is sudden nausea, yellow coated tongue, inward coldness and heat of face, constipation, violent abdominal pain, faintness, again, long and continued vomiting during pregnancy, can retain no food in stomach, great emaciation and debility. Great emaciation and debility, that means it's hyperemesis gravidarum. So if Chalybachromicum is a remedy for hyperemesis gravidarum or excessive nausea due to pregnancy. It can also modulate the expression of GDF15 and IGF-BP7. So when we do the drug proving, we also to focus on this one. So calibachromicium can modify STAT pathway. It can, theoretically speaking, it can affect the GDF15 IGF-BP7 regulation of that. Then calibachromicium is an important medicine for measles because it can cause ulcers in the mouth, like complex spots we can see. So it is an antiviral drug also. So these are the way how we have to prove the drug. So GDF15 and IGF-BP7, these are essential for the appetite placenta. We have seen people are prescribing calibachromicium for cancer cachexia, hyperemesis. So these are all related actually. These are symptoms of calibachromicium, like thick yellow, ropey, stringent discharge, migrating pains, ulcers, pungent or descarotic ulcers, pseudomembrane formation, clinkers from nose, hot weather aggravation in fat chubby children. In fat chubby children, this GDF15 and IGF-BP7 is expressed more. So we say they are predisposed to calibachromicium symptoms. So these symptomatic the symptoms of the patient, we can cellular changes. So it will make the prescription more sharp and precise. So I suggesting, or I present this to one webinar, like the novel study of material. Now the new method of studying material should be like this. We can collect the symptomatology, we can observe the physiological action of the medicines. Genetics and epigenetics also plays an important role. Plus, now it is available human small intestinal organoids, HSIO. These organoids are just like just like proving we can do. So they can observe the changes in the intestinal organoids, give calibachromicium, and see how it is modifying the JAK-STAT pathway, like any kind of imitinab or any of their medicines. Our own medicines can have this effect. So the new method of Mathematica study should be focusing on human organoids also, not only collecting the symptoms of the patient, because the symptomatic expression of the patient, we cannot say a person completely healthy, but we can synthesize organoids and do the study on that. So then it will be scientifically valid. So we have seen calibac act as a GDF15 modifier, IGF-BP7 regulator. It can inhibit JAK kinase, or it is a JAK kinase inhibitor. It is antiviral. It is an immunomodulator. So based on this one, plus the symptoms of the patient, we can prescribe precisely. As Hahnemann defined methodic as specific therapeutic instruments for effecting the certain and permanent cure. So cure is possible with antipsoric treatment and with homeopathic medicines. Only thing we need to explain this to the scientific community using their own vocabulary or their own language rather than focusing on the symptoms. We can also explain calibachromicium is GDF15 modulator and IGF-BP7 regulator. So it can be given in hyperemesis gravidarum. It can affect the JAK-STAT pathway. So we can prescribe this in ulcerative colitis or in constant diseases. Calibachromicium symptomatically it's similar to the ulcers caused by measles or the complex spots. It can be given as an antiviral drug. It is a good immune regulator since it is modifying the JAK-STAT pathway. It reduces the interleukin. So in patients tendency to develop hyperimmune reactions or host inflammatory response, we can give calibachromicium to prevent that. So the cure is predictable, this is preventive, and this is precise or personalized one. Then the cure will become real, and then as Hahnemann said, it's specific therapeutic instruments for effecting the certain and permanent cure in a chronic case. So beyond COVID-19 is ready. The path is clear. We have to continue that. So I thank you all for the patient listening. I know we are all bombarded with too much of webinar, and the time in Kerala it's around 9:30. You are ready to have dinner and have a nice sleep because it's raining there. So I don't know how far you are able to follow this session. Anyway, I didn't hear anybody snoring or sleeping. Maybe you are more intelligent to what you call turn off your
No,
video and
no, no.
audio.
Actually, we have around 2 or 3 webinars at the same time. It was just
Okay.
happened to be. I just came to know yesterday only, but it was a great session. I would request Dr. Joyce to tell a feedback of then and go to the question answer session.
Sure.
Dr. Joyce?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes. Tell me. Can we go for
A
the
second.
can we go for the case presentation now or after the question answer session?
Hello.
Dr. Joyce,
Yes.
whether we can
So,
go for the case presentation now or after the session?
Which one?
so we'll switch to case presentation right now.
Dr. Simpson, we have a case presentation
Sure.
program organized by State Webinar Committee.
Sure.
So, can we move on to that after that?
Definitely. Definitely.
Okay.
So now I invite Dr. Danya G. Nair for presenting her case. Dr. Danya, please.
Dr. Danya, you are the co-host now. You can share your screen and unmute the audio. Okay. Please unmute your phone, Dr. Danya.
Hello.
Okay. Yeah, we can hear you. You can share your screen. It's in the center bar.
Hello.
Yeah, we can see. Okay.
Hello, Deepu.
Yeah, you can come out of Zoom and you can open the your session. Okay, you just come out of the screen. Okay.
Okay.
You can you please open your case PowerPoint.
Can I start?
You can start the screen presentation. Okay.
Okay. Hello, good evening. Hello.
Yeah, you can start. We are hearing you. You please continue.
Hello, good evening. Today I am going to present a case of diabetes mellitus, which could be effectively treated with homeopathic constitutional treatment. Now, what's a constitutional remedy? Chambers Dictionary defines constitution as the natural condition of the body and mind disposition. It is given in aphorism 5 of Organon of Medicine. Also, it was advocated by Hippocrates and Paracelsus, and is used in this concept is used in Chinese medicine also. Now, the case report. A 52-year-old man presented with the complaints of increased thirst and weakness for the last 3 months. He also had pain in cervical region, aggravation lying down for the last 2 weeks. Now, coming to the mental generals, taciturn. He was found to be very silent, and he had a fear of crowd, and he never had a smiling face. Physical generals, his appetite was normal, his bowel habits and sleep were found to be normal. Reaction 2, he liked fanning, covering likes only in cold weather, bathing prefers cold bathing. And on physical examination, his blood pressure was found to be 130/90 millimeter of mercury. All of the vitals were within normal limits. Blood examination revealed blood routine and urine routine to be normal. FBS was 154 milligram per deciliter. That was probably the reason for his weakness and increased thirst. And serum cholesterol was 172 milligram per deciliter. This is the lab report showing FBS to be 154 milligram per deciliter. That is on 28/10/2019. Taking into account all his symptoms, by radar 10 synthesis repertory, it was repertorized. And the rubrics taken were mind taciturn, mind smiling never, mind fear crowd in a, general's food and drink sweets desire, general's diabetes mellitus, back pain cervical region lying wide. The topmost remedies were lycopodium, arsenicum, and aurum. As the patient is a hot patient, arsenicum and aurum were excluded and lycopodium was taken. All the symptoms are covered by lycopodium. Now, justification for the remedy. Lycopodium is adapted to ailments developing gradually and functional power weakens. It is adapted to deep-seated, progressive, chronic diseases. And now follow-up. 2 weeks after the first dose, on 12/11/2019, weakness was better, increased thirst persisted, pain in cervical region persisted, then FPS was lowered to 142 milligram per deciliter. And the dose of lycopodium 200 was given. On 30/11/2019, weakness was better but persisted. No increased thirst, pain in cervical region was also better. So placebo was given. On 16/12/2019, there was no weakness. Pain in cervical region was as such. So another dose of lycopodium 200 was given. On 1/1/2020, pain in cervical region persisted. So no more use of lycopodium 200. So one dose of lycopodium 1 was given. On 10/1/2020, when the patient returned, pain in cervical region was much better and FBS was lowered to 113 milligram per deciliter. So placebo was given. This is the lab report of 12/11/2019 showing FBS to be 142 milligram per deciliter. And this is the report on 9/1/2020 showing FBS to be 113 milligram per deciliter. So that was a case of diabetes mellitus, which could be effectively managed by homeopathic constitutional remedy itself. No other tinctures or biochemics were used. That was in the initial stage of diabetes mellitus. When medicine was given in the initial stage, the most appropriate constitutional remedy without the use of any other modes of treatment, the patient could be improved. That's all. So homeopathic constitutional remedies are very powerful in bringing down the sugar level and prevent the possible complications. That's all. Thank you.
Dr. Jose?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Danya.
Thanks.
So, okay, if anybody is having any doubts regarding this, you can just post it. We'll be having, at the end of the session, we'll be having a doubt clearance. So now I go to my duty for telling a word of thanks.
No. Before that, you should people should have asked some questions to Dr. Sinsen. Okay, he's right there.
Please. What I want to tell you is that I would like to share a few words for Dr. Sinsen. So it was my duty to explain or to postulate some formal word of thanks, but from my heart, let me tell you something. So are you listening?
Yes. Tell me, no problem. I'm in the clinic, that's why. Multitasking in between.
The thing is that it was mentioned in the message box. One of our participants have just told like it is an eye-opening session. Of course, it was an eye-opening session only because we conventional practitioners sitting in the clinic, seeing the patients, we are just making out the homeopathy in a like a prepared manner. Somebody had given us the things, so we are just utilizing it. But people like you who work for the enhancement or for the deepest of the upholding the science, we are I'm extremely grateful to you for bringing all those notices coming out in the formulation of this research and methodology, which actually helped our science, and which will, of course, only through this we can expect something which will come out for the appraisal of our science. So we are extremely grateful for the session and thankful on behalf of IHMA. So thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So now we'll go for the doubt clearance session. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor, for your nice words. See, I think it's my duty, to establish my system of medicine in a more scientific way and help my colleagues to understand what I learned for the last 20 years from my practice and my interaction. See, I want to thank the doctors from other system of medicine, because I think I have participated more than 600 plus CMS in Dubai, that all by the specialists in different fields like cardiologists, gastroenterologists, gynecologists, neurosurgeons, even pediatrician, like that. So what all I learned from them, I am just sharing with you. For me, it's like I don't have any reservation against any kind of system of medicine. Even I am interacting with Ayurvedic doctors, even yoga therapists, even Unani medicine doctors. We all learn by interacting with others. Don't think that we are in a we are in a shell and isolating from ourselves. But we as an Ayush practitioner, we have a very good role to play from our side. And I want to share my experience in USA. It's like it was like a I never thought of I'd be invited to present a paper in a community there. So I'm thanking the doctors there for inviting me for a session there. So they were very open to me, like they just want to know what homeopaths are doing, because they have only misconceptions about homeopathy. There I learned to know that, see, if you want to communicate with them, we should learn their language. Like I explained to you, like instead of saying Calibachromicium is acting like it is having ulcer, you can say it can inhibit the JAK-STAT pathway. And if we can prove that, that work is done. So see, don't think that all so-called modern medicine doctors are against us. Nothing like that. There are too many doctors helping us, because to be frank enough, you know, today in Dubai, most of the doctors are using our arsenicum album for the COVID prevention, including pulmonologists, general practitioners, pediatrician, gynecologist. So don't feel we are isolated or we are different. Only thing, we should be confident in our science to speak to them. Be proud to be a homeopath and identify our potential. So that's what I want to tell you. Don't focus only on the symptomatology. Focus on the holistic science of homeopathy. Learn the principles, learn the basics. Start from Hahnemann's Organoid for Medicine, chronic diseases and lesser writings. Don't follow the followers of Hahnemann, because see, Hahnemann was a visionary. His observations and findings were clear. But those who followed him, they are like they are groping in the dark. They don't have any instruments to find anything. So they simply coined some terms and just simply followed Hahnemann. Now we are at the end of the tunnel. There is only light now. We have all the facilities there in the science. Atomic tunneling microscope, even for cellular studies, even human organoids are there. Then why can't we utilize that? So my request to my younger generation, new homeopaths, don't be embarrassed, don't be disheartened that you are not getting patients or anything. There is a bright future waiting for you all. Only thing, you should grab it. You should position yourself in such a way that you should be able to catch the opportunity. See, curriculum, the teaching method has to be rewritten. There should be some kind of unlearning and relearning is needed. We cannot blame the masters or the veterans, because they did their role. Now it is in the hands of the seniors and the followers of homeopathy. So we have to a radical change has to happen in homeopathy, and the antisoric treatment has to be given to the world. Hahnemann introduced homeopathy not for homeopathy, it's for the whole world actually. So we have a very good scope in the era of post-COVID. As I told you, this is the apple fall on the head. Arsenic on the head of the scientist. I always say this homeopathy, the best system in our own wrong hands. If it has been in the hands of a scientist from Cleveland, I can explain it. Like I was being treated there by Dr. Manish. See, I don't know how far they are dedicated to their profession. Each day, every morning, 7 o'clock, he will come to his research lab and he will do the calibration of more than 20 instruments every day, including Sunday. Just imagine how much dedication and commitment they are showing to the profession. And just compare with us. We are sitting in the comfort of our clinic and we are boasting everything and claiming falsely. I don't know what others are telling. Dr. Deepu told me, Dr. Simpson, people in Kerala, homeopaths in Kerala, telling you about you in 2 words. One, you are what you call sarcastic and you're rude. Yes, I am sarcastic to our mistakes. See, I don't want to blame anybody. We have to be sarcastic of our mistakes, learn from our mistakes. I am absolutely rude to the false claims. Because see, a cardiologist come and claim thousands of cases. A neurologist can come and claim millions of cases which he cured. And we are going to them and showing one case and claiming that. See, if it's a real cure, I don't have any reservation. You can see from my presentation. So I am happy to have that title, but that is for the sake of homeopathy. But yes, of course, we need some kind of peer group evaluation. So I really want to appreciate the new generation doctors. Come up, arise, awake till the antisoric treatment is reached to the hands of the suffering humanity. Thank you. And I believe if there is no much doubt, that means everything passed above your head. Or if there is no much doubt, that means you understood everything. See, I didn't go in depth of anything. I just guided you how to do the unlearning and the relearning process to understand thoroughly about homeopathy. After this, visiting this, what you call Cleveland Clinic, my confidence in homeopathy, it's not double, it's 100 times now, because I'm so proud that a homeopath can reach to such a stage. Then my fellow beings can reach Harvard or Mayo Clinic, and they can proclaim antisoric treatment is the future medicine.
Okay. Before Dr. Joyce, I would like to ask Dr. Simpson a thing that
Sure.
we are actually in the evening session we used to do the therapeutic sessions. So you might be knowing that.
Sure.
So I know you have treated some COVID cases, and I know you have treated some cases like that. In regards, can you explain one or few cases for us?
Actually, it's illegal to explain that in reality, because we are in a regulated environment in Dubai. But I have treated 84 COVID positive cases so far. What I am planning after this end of this COVID season, I will explain. I'm ready to share my knowledge there, and I want to clearly tell you. See, if we can give our medicine on the beginning stage, we can prevent the complication. We can bring down the viral load at the earliest, and the patient will turn into negative very fast. I have treated different nationalities too. I have patients from USA also, because my brothers and family settled there. Even close relatives also contracted COVID-19, but all of them to homeopathy, and they are all cured with that. I have treated in Dubai a child at the age of 5, 7. Then, but since it's not what you call legally permitted to discuss that at the at this point of time. But
Okay,
yes,
okay.
of course, we will share in a later stage everything clearly.
Okay, Dr. Joyce, you can take the session.
So we will look on to some doubts if anybody is having. Let me see.
Any doubts, or everybody sleeping, or or at your dinner table?
No. I think
So
some doubts are there, Dr. Joyce.
The disease
Okay.
presentation more simple. See, I think the most of the doubts are regarding miasm, like syphilis and psychosis. I think Dr. Saji is explaining clearly about the miasms. So that is Hahnemann's concept of miasm. That's what I'm telling you. Better understand the teachings of Hahnemann directly, rather than reading the books which wrought by others, followers of Hahnemann. Because the miasm is created such a hangama in homeopathy community. It's miasm complex. Actually, miasm is simple. For Hahnemann, miasm is an organism. So at that time it was not clearly evident. Now it's like in SARS-CoV-2 also we can say miasm is SARS-CoV-2. Miasma is the what you call the alveolar fluid, or the discharge of the nose, and the miasmata or the miasmatic disease is COVID-19. So I think you can follow the books, or in a later stage we can arrange a meeting, a seminar on miasms. Blindly follow the false teachings of the so-called pioneers of Hanuman. Since the real original books are available, learn that. Because see, as I told you, the followers of Hanuman, they simply wrote something they were not able to understand. The problem was that since Hanuman is exposed to, see, it is from his experience. That's why I put the first slide. Hanuman read Cullen's Mathematica not to discover homeopathy. That's the first point. So it's his experience. He in chronic disease he says, it's not my knowledge, it is my experience only led me to this that. So that's what I want to tell my friends also, my colleagues also. I present this one webinar last week. Then one doctor told me, doctor, in every case when I repertorize, it is become antisoric. I told that it's the correct one because 90% of cases are antisoric or soric cases, and you should understand latent sora clearly. Then half of the doubts will be over. How do you doing research in cellular level, doctor? How you are incorporating other field in research? Dr. Shanti. Doctor, actually, I am not a research person. I am just like a clinician. Out of interest only, I am doing these things. But I have a plan to do some research, but it's very, very early to comment on that. I hope my visit to Cleveland will bring something, but it's very early to comment on that. Sir, what are the different possibility studies with behavioral and mental conditions now during the COVID season? That is not what you call scope of discussion, but see, of course you can do some studies, but the studies, see, when you do a research study, follow the proper protocol of research. For example, if you are doing a study on psoriasis, there is a protocol or the written scale to how to assess the severity of the disease, how to define the follow-up and other things. So follow that one. Then what about HbA1c in the diabetic case? Yeah, HbA1c is monitoring the blood sugar level. So if that is the clear one, if we can bring down the HbA1c with homeopathy medicines, not with the exercise or anything, that means it clearly shows that medicine is acting on the glycosylation of the hemoglobin. Then some COVID cases treated by discussion. That I told you, like, no, we see there is no rocket science in treating COVID or any disease in homeopathy in its first and second stage, because we are going with the symptomalarity. Our Arsenicum album, phosphorus, bryonia, gelsemium, Naxomica, Rustox did their job well. Can we study health of homeopaths? Okay, that's there. Any other
So I have one doubt regarding one of our participants have also asked, like, can you just correlate the death rates? Like we see in USA and all in Arab countries also, we see many deaths. But when it is coming to Kerala and other states, we see that the patients or they're more stable. Can you differentiate any kind of such realities when it is coming to the matter of COVID cases?
See, now it's only hypothesis now. In US and UK or in developed countries, most of the death occurred in old people and those who are on with multiple disease comorbidities or on medications and other things. And they are exposed to sunlight is very limited. Vitamin D plays an important role. India is a temperate place where we are more exposed to sunlight and our vitamin D level is high. So this vitamin D seems to protect from cytokine storm. Then second thing, as I told you, one study shows that our I have seen put the slide HSA MI27B, that is Homo sapiens microRNA 27B seems to be protective against COVID SARS-CoV-2 virus. So that's it. That's what I want to tell you. Is like there are some kind of variations, genetic variations where, so for example, in Wayanad or in hilly places or in marshy districts or where malaria was prevalent, they developed sickle cell disease. In order to prevent the entry of what you call the continuous entry of the malarial parasite, the body, the health, the living thing, a human being also make some modifications like that. This microRNA, they are all small RNA but not coding ones actually. So we have to focus on RNA, microRNA studies also. See, that's what there is an immense scope waiting for us. Only thing we have to understand the fundamental science and what you call modern science as much as possible, rather than going behind the symptom similarity of a case.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
So it's a nice time to wind up. And I thank you all for your patient listening. Not much disturbance on the video or audio. Otherwise, even in Dubai session also, we are seeing people snoring, eating, cooking, and other things. Unfortunately, there is not even a single video of anything like that. That means the homeopaths from Kerala and the other parts of the world listening to this one, especially by IHM.
Actually,
You know,
the thing is the difference between IHMA webinars and so-called other webinars. We are proclaiming like we are doing a therapeutic, not only a therapeutic session. We are teaching something and we are creating something new. So I think that is the main difference. We have the audience that are coming only for the subject.
Absolutely.
That's what we need actually. That's what actually I feel it's around 190 participants are there. And yesterday too, it was around 350. But I feel that those who came here are coming for the substance, not for the false claims and all. So I am very happy that. Dr. Joyce.
Because we did an unbiased discussion on our homeopathic journey. So it's like a journey is most important than the destination. And I'm happy to say, I even in Cleveland Clinic also. I told them this is the best group of doctors in Kerala, and they are all. See, nowadays the word Kerala is familiar everywhere because of our nurses. Now, what I'm telling now that the homeopath has to become the torch bearers of Kerala. We have an immense scope waiting for us, but IHMA has to come forward and organize these things. I have clearly mentioned we can do multi-centric studies. It's very easy. Only thing we need some kind of references, or we need some kind of associations and what you call some kind of interactions between the international community. But this COVID-19 definitely, that's why I am specifying. COVID-19 brings immense scope to homeopaths. Only thing we should be able to grab it as much as possible and as early as possible.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. The immense concept which I have brought out from this session, like the anti-psoriatic concept, the use of mere antibiotics, antiviral things, all those might have, of course, ignited the minds of all our junior or senior practitioners. Like this is entirely a different session which you have experienced till now. So I think that it has been a wonderful experience for all those who are practicing mere homeopathy, and you have come up with wonderful results. And from on behalf of IHMA, we wish you all the very best, and let your endeavors come fruitful and be a torch bearer of homeopathy. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. Thank you. Good night, sir.
Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, and especially thanks to Dr. Deebu, because we discussed many ways how to present this one. He told if I do it's like a roasting video, it will be like painful to others.
Sir, I also got one message that why you always talk of only Kerala doctors. We need to change it pan India.
Absolutely. See, what I am telling is like, the thing is that doesn't mean. See, now I am an international doctor. No, it's like I am what I feel in Kerala is like the government of Kerala is promoting homeopathy like anything. We can see. I worked in the government sector there. That's what all in 2005 I started the first special OP in infertility there in Kerala itself. So that doesn't mean I am focusing more on homeopathic doctors in Kerala, but being they are more responsible than the other doctors in the different parts of the world, because they are getting more chances. So they have to come up. That doesn't mean I am partial to other I am showing partial to Kerala doctors, but they can come up. See, I was doing my PhD from Jaipur, so that doesn't mean I am like more focused on Kerala, but the responsibility on the homeopaths in Kerala is much more than any parts of India, because they are getting that much of exposure. They are getting experiences, and they are fighting against IMA in a very broad sense too. So I will share the PDF of this to Dr. Deebu. You can share to anybody, because it's like I want people to share the knowledge to grow. It's not, there is no patent or any property. I didn't write a book on this also, but I am writing a book on scientific validation of SORA, and I definitely expect your feedback or your criticisms or your view on the different angles. So the word anti-psoriatic treatment has to be reverberating all over the world. for future medicine is antipsoric treatment. So that is the take-home message of our late-night discussion on the topic of from Syngona to arsenic albor, Syngona to COVID. So from bottom of my heart, once again, I thank Dr. Saji, Dr. Deebu and others who are setting a lot to organize this kind of webinars. You know the risk of webinar. Now you have to coordinate the different continents, different parties. If it's in a hall, it's easy to coordinate. This is like people are sitting in different places. So it's not easy to coordinate such webinars. Anyway, from the bottom of heart, I again congratulate Dr. Deebu to take such a lot of pain. He slept yesterday. I think it's a early morning, like 4 o'clock. So see, the hard work you are putting into this one will be definitely valid. And being at part of IHMA, I am very happy to be associated with IHMA doctors. So thank you once again, and good night all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Dr. Deepu will wind up the session.
Yeah.
I'm winding up. Okay.